Hello again, it's me. I'm coming to y'all drunker than I've come to y'all every other night this week. I feel like I've progressively gotten just a little more drinks in my system every single night we've progressed this week. I think Monday we started like Stone Cold Steve Austin sober. Tuesday we went out I think for a couple beers, and I realized like, wow, like once I'm like a good amount of beers in, like everything just comes out like a little easier, and I'm not really like thinking about like what I'm actually doing. I'm not thinking about the fact that there's like this face cam here and this microphone here, and all this is going to the public internet. For those watching on YouTube, which I think everyone is at this point, check this out. That's the Yingling flight deck at Bridgestone Arena wristband. We went to a Preds game tonight. I really wasn't planning on it. Last night I drank a lot of beers. But tonight, I came home, I made some tacos, which is something I've gotten into tacos a lot. It's actually one of the easiest things in the world to cook. The only thing you really have to prep is the protein of your choice. I kind of alternate weekly between boneless, skinless, like chicken thighs, and then like they make beef in the store, and it's like beef for like tacos or beef for fajitas or whatever. And all you do is you marinate this meat, this protein. I use a special type of marinade, and I kind of go for like a Mexican twist on it, so it gives me like the taco vibe. But you marinate it for as long as you want to marinate it. What I mean by marinate is you take this protein, you throw it in a big Ziploc bag, and I throw like garlic salt, garlic powder, onion powder, fresh garlic, hot sauce, like a marinade sauce, and like Cajun seasoning, and you like just like marinate the beef. It's literally the easiest thing in the world. I always score my chicken so like it adds flavor. Just cooking tip for you folks. I know most of you fuckers can't cook for shit, or like do cook, but like, I don't know. It's always good to get cooking tips. I always liked it when someone gave me a tip on like how to cook shit. But anyway, tacos have been my go-to, and really like all I do is I either get like street tortillas from Kroger, which they sell for like $2.50 for like 40 of them, or my buddy, actually my manager at my job right now, he's from Cuba, but when he came to America, he didn't go like your typical route. Like he was telling me today he wore a pair of jeans, and he looks me in the eye and he goes like, I traveled 5 countries in 3 days in these jeans. And I was like, wow, those jeans got some experience on them. They got some mileage, but like he straight up did it. And I've only heard glimpses of that story of like, his journey to like get to where he is now. And it's quite incredible. And that actually happens like way more than you would think. And it's mind blowing to hear like the journey. And most of you like American and soft people like couldn't imagine. Like you couldn't imagine having to do something like that to escape like the situation you're in. But anyway, yeah, I came home and I made tacos. And I tell you, I love making tacos. All you need is your marinated protein. You need raw diced onion. You need some fresh cilantro. And you need some fresh lime. And hot sauce if you like it. I like some hot sauce, but I use some like Cholula, which when I told this Hispanic manager of mine, he just laughed. And he's like, you fucking gringo American. Like, obviously you don't understand like heat. Whatever. I get made fun of that shit for all the time. Just being like a white. I'm not even white. I get asked if I'm Japanese. I get asked if I'm Arabic. I get asked if I'm Hispanic. I'm kind of like right in the middle of all of it. So like, I can eat tacos. I can like go to the pyramids, or I can like, watch anime. And I'm like totally in the clear from like any judgment, because they're just like, that fits. Whatever. I didn't choose this. It chose me. But yeah, I made some tacos tonight, and I'm like, I've been prepping for this podcast all day. I'm like, it's Thursday night. It's the last night I'm going to be able to do the podcast. Like, what in the fuck are we going to talk about? And every night this week, I've told you all the same thing. It's like, I'm completely unprepared for this podcast. And so I was like, you know what? Tonight I should like actually prepare something and have something like ready to go. And I'm sitting in the kitchen, like, chowing down on my tacos, and I'm actually on the phone with my dad. And I'm like, my dad's, like, telling me that my granddad, had this, he had, like, this surgery on his brain because, like, there's, like, a bunch of fluid buildup, and, like, it was, like, a real, like, scare for everybody in our family. And I'm like, threw that on me on Monday, and, like, until today, like, we didn't really know what was going to happen, but he's okay, thank God. But, so I'm on the phone with my dad. I'm like, okay, well, I was like, thank God he's okay and whatever. But, like, if y'all get bored, I started a podcast Monday too. Don't show mom. She's probably under a lot of stress and she doesn't need to watch these things that I'm saying to the internet. But, like, Dad, you should watch it and you should hear, like, what happened to me from my perspective. That's, like, episode 2 or whatever. And he was like, like, that's actually interesting. And he actually, like, told me some things about his, like, experience because, like, I don't know if he thought, like, I was, like, dogging him or, like, getting on his ass or something. But it was just like that. Like, you just got to listen to it and you got to see, like, this is how I thought about, like, everything that was going down. Like, this is literally me walking through, like, my mindset the whole time it's going down. So, I told him to watch it. Anyway, I'm eating tacos and, like, talking to my dad. And my roommate, like, busts up in the house and he, like, kicks down the door or whatever. And I'm like, he's like, he like turns around. He's like, just got off of work. He's like, you're all dressed up. And he's like, you got plans tonight? And I was like, well, like, honestly, like, I really, really wanted to record this podcast. But the reason I started this podcast is it's not because my life is lame, but my life is lame. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have friends in, like, this new city I'm living in. Like, I meet acquaintances, but I don't meet friends. It's actually pretty difficult for me to meet, like, friends. I've met some friends. I will say, like, I've met friends, and I have some people who I'd call a friend, but, like, it's hard for me to, like, find, like, a group where I can, like, easily fit in. I don't know why that is. I mean, I have ideas of why that is, but I don't know why that is. So anyway, he's like, you got plans tonight? And I'm like, my life's lame. And he's obviously going to ask me, like, if I want to go do something that's probably going to be, like, pretty fun. So I'm like, no, I don't have any plans. My plan was to, like, sit down and plan this podcast. But he goes, you have any plans tonight? I was like, no. So he's like, my boss gave me hockey tickets to, like, the Yingling Flight Club, which is, like, a step down from, like, the Lexus Lounge. But, like, it's like this, like, you go to the hockey arena, to this bar, and we had seats, and you get free drinks and free food. But the only free drinks you get are, like, Yingling. So I'm like 8.5, like, Yingling Flight. Yeah, the Flight Club. The Yingling Flight, which is just their, like, light beer. I'm like 8.5 of those deep. And, like, I'm looking at it now, half a Heineken deep. So, like, did I plan for this episode? Not at all. And I actually said in the last episode, I was like, I'm going to, like, read chat this episode. It's not going to be a long episode, which it probably shouldn't, because although I may be 8.5 Yingling flights, like, deep, like, I need to go to the gym. And I put it off last night. I know I kind of said, like, I got to go to the gym, like, to the people listening, but I'm going to be honest with y'all. And that's what I'm going to try to do, like, a lot in this thing. Is, like, I'm going to be as honest as I can. I'm going to be honest with y'all when I say, like, I did not go to the gym. I just didn't do it. I wasn't feeling it. I got off the episode, and I was like, you know what? Like, I'm going the fuck to sleep. I got to wake up at, like, 6 a.m. And I fucking had to wake up at 6 a.m. So I'm coming to y'all exhausted. I woke up at 6 a.m. this morning. Work was fucking a bitch. I've just been thinking a lot about a bunch of different shit, but work was a bitch. It was just a bitch to, like, this whole week. It's just been a grind, and I've now, started recording, like, and spending an hour and a half of my time, like, recording these podcasts, and, like, I want to do this. That's the thing. Is, like, I want to do this, but now it's, like, all these work responsibilities, and they're, like, want me to stay late and this and that, and I'm like, well, fuck, why is it when I start doing something I kind of enjoy that, like, the world pushes something on me that, like, I have to decide. Now it's, like, one or the other. And it's just, like, it seems like it always kind of goes that way. But I'm sitting there. I started the stream a bit early, and I was like, what am I going to talk about tonight? I'm going to dive into what I'm going to talk about tonight. I'm going to go buy some Zens. I started the stream early. I said, I'm going to go buy some Zens, and I'm going to come back with, like, a game plan. But I got caught up listening to like Playboy Cardi's new album in the car, and I'm like, okay. But then I think at the gas station it hit me, and I was like, we're going to talk about Nashville. The first episode we talked about my move to Austin, which is like right before here. The second episode we got into like my past before even moving to Austin. And so now we're going to talk about like now. What's happening now? And so I'm going to recap. I came to Nashville because I was sick of living in Austin. I didn't have any family in Austin. I didn't have a career path. And all the people I met. Now, let me stop for a second. I met a lot of cool people in Austin. And during the Austin episode, like, you have to understand, I'm very new to what I'm doing. Like, whatever this is. We haven't really decided if we want to call it anything yet. But it's very hard for me to put everything I know and like feel about all these things into like a single like coherent line of words. So yes, there was people, very specific people I wanted to talk about and have great stories about, but I just when I start talking on the mic, my mind just goes from like it has to connect the dots. So to my beautiful girl neighbors that I met, when I saw them having a bonfire in their front yard, and I was having a huge bonfire in my backyard by myself, and I had no friends or anybody to invite over. And to those beautiful girls that I walked over and said, like, you got any marshmallows? You know, like some like generic shit. And then we became like super close friends. Like, I'm sorry I didn't mention y'all in my Austin episode. Y'all were actually like the dopest people I met the whole time. These girls I met by asking them if they had marshmallows, and like they had this like tiny little fire in their front yard, which was like directly across from my front yard. But in my backyard, I was having this huge like I was just burning all the wood in my backyard. Like I cleaned it up and I was like, I'm gonna have a fire tonight. It's cold, which it doesn't get cold in Texas, and so I was like, I'm gonna have a fire. And I burned all this wood, and I actually planned for like a bunch of people to show up and like come, and we'd like drink around the fire or whatever. But like all of them, like it's not that they didn't show up, they just showed up like really late. And so I remember like right when like everyone was supposed to show up, no one came, and I was like, okay, well obviously like I have nothing going on for me or whatever. And I remember hearing these girls like laughing across the street, and I walk over, and there are these two girls like standing out in the front yard, like, and they have this like tiny fire like going in their front yard in like a fire pit. And the fire in my backyard was almost like engulfing the tree, which was probably like 20 feet above it. It was almost like catching that tree on fire because like I was just burning all this shit, and I was ready to like have like a big like Mississippi throwdown out here in Austin. And no one showed up, and so I was like, all right. And so I walk over, and I, social butterfly me, I said like, you got any marshmallows? And they fucking ate that shit up. They thought it was fucking hilarious. And I was like, you think that's a big fire? Why don't you come check out what I got going on? And I remember they came over, and like we talked and stuff, and like I think like I don't know, it wasn't very long into our conversation they were like, you should come to church with us. And these girls ended up being like, I would go to church with them. We ate brunch a couple times. It was these girls and their friends who like, I turned 21 in Austin, and that's kind of like a big like birthday, event for anybody. You turn 21, you gotta go and like get drinks or whatever. All the friends I made, did not want to hang out with me at all. I didn't have anybody to hang out with for my birthday, and these girls were like, we got to do something for your birthday. They were all about it. They put a lot of energy into like reminding me that like, hey, you got to do something for your birthday, and obviously like we're gonna do it with you. And so for my birthday, my 21st birthday, I found this restaurant I wanted to go to. It was this like rooftop like restaurant / bar at this hotel, and it's right across like Town Lake in Austin, so like right across like the water of like downtown, and you were just sitting on this roof and you could see the entire like skyline. And we all dressed up, and it was like really nice, and I felt like a fucking pimp. I'm not even gonna lie, like I felt like a pimp. It was me on my like 21st, either a pimp or a straight up like homo. But one or the other, like I still felt baller because like it was just me and a bunch of like girls it was, very, it was all platonic. Like, they weren't about that. And I was scared, we went to church together. So, like, it was very platonic relationships. But, like, I was still, like, taking these girls out, 3 different girls out to dinner for my birthday. And I kind of felt like, Purple Pimp Willie or whatever the fuck that dude is on Instagram, like. Anyway, like, that's what I mean. Like, when I have the entire Austin episode, like, there is a lot that goes into that. Like, obviously, there's Bobby, who I met, and he's this tattoo artist. And obviously, there's, like, Alessandra, this girl who, like, we had a real connection. And obviously, there's, like, these other girls, Kelly and Jessica. Like, obviously, there was a lot that happened. And so when I don't get to say anything, like, these people probably don't even care, and they probably don't actually listen to the podcast, but, like, I feel the need to, like, explain myself and be like, obviously a lot went down in Austin. A lot. And I just couldn't get to you. But it's all going to come. Like, we're going to get to all these stories, like, very slowly and very gradually as a team together. We're going to dive into, like, all these events in my life. But the event tonight that we're going to go over is going to be Nashville. So as I explained, I was sick of the Austin shit. I was fed up. Just fucking fed up with it. The social media stuff was failing. I was failing. Y'all, I mean, it's like, I could go into one story and the next. I went homeless in Texas. I was homeless. Not like, honestly, if I think about it, I was probably like homeless a year and a half ago from today. Which, when you put it like that, you're kind of like, what? Like, I'm like, what? Like, really? Like, you're not as, like, doing well as you think you are if you were homeless a year and a half ago. But, you know what I mean? Like, I, like, just had no money and my lease ended and I wasn't prepared and I went homeless. And I was living on couches and living with girls on Tinder and shit. And when all that failed, like, living on couches. And eventually, one of the guys I worked with was like, look, like, 3 of us share this, like, 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment, and we're all moving out, and we're getting a different place, but the lease, like, extends for a month and a half. And if you want to live there, you can. And they were like, well, you can pay us, like, $100 or $200 or whatever. And I'm like, well, obviously, that's cheaper than, like, a $1,500 down payment, and then first month's rent. You know what I mean? Like, it's expensive to, like, get the ball rolling. And so I was like, yeah, I'm going to move. I'll take that up. Like, I need somewhere to live because I can't live on this dude's couch forever. So I remember I moved into this place and the whole place is empty. And, like, it's not in West Campus. It's in this place called, like, North Campus, which is, like, a little further from, like, University of Texas. And it's, like, older buildings, older houses or whatever. I pull up to this spot, and it's not, like, a bad apartment complex at all, but, like, it's not, like, the best. It wasn't, like luxury or anything at all. It was just very older or whatever, and it smelled like weed. The whole place smelled like weed. Just, like, not even the apartment, but, like, the apartment complex just smelled like marijuana, like, all the time. But I needed a place to live, and I wasn't being picky at all. Like, for fuck's sake, no, I didn't have the opportunity to be picky. And so I remember, like, getting the keys, and we're like, all right, you can, like, live in here. I have no money. Like, I probably had, at this point, like, $80 in my banking account, which I had to save because, like, for food and shit and, like, gas or whatever, because all my shit's in my truck. And I remember getting in this place, and it's fucking filthy. Not, like, for anybody's fault. You move out, you don't want to deep clean the place. Like, the place is probably going to deep clean it for you before they show it to another tenant. But, like, we hadn't hit that point yet because, like, I'm in, like, that limbo gray area. I get in there and there's no furniture. There's a bunch of, like, just, like, nasty shit on the ground. And, like, everything's, like, just bare. And I think I found, like, a single pot in the kitchen that, like, I could cook out of. I was like, all right, this is what we're going to have to do. And in the bedroom, they left a dresser. Just, like, a big-ass, very heavy, like, dresser. Like, kind of like this one, for those of you who are, like, watching me. That one. Kind of like that, but, like, it was bigger and white. And so that first night, like, I remember, like, I was like, okay, at least I have like my own place and it's shelter from like, the harsh environment or whatever. I can, I'm gonna sleep here. But then I realized like I don't have an air mattress, I don't have anything, and the floor was grossing me out because it was just gross. And I was like, I'm not gonna sleep on the floor. I don't have enough blankets to protect my body from like the things on this floor. And so I had this like gaming like office chair in my truck, and I'd carried it with me from Mississippi all the way like through like the ups and downs of my life in Austin to like this point. And I don't know why. I think I thought it was like part of my like gaming setup. I had my laptop, I had this mic, that headset, and like, this mouse. And it was the chair was just part of my setup, and I couldn't like get rid of it. I was just so like, I had to have it. So I like squeezed it in my truck, and so I bring it in to this apartment. It's the only piece of furniture I have. Like the only piece of furniture I have was this office chair. But I'm thinking, it's late. I need to like sleep. Where am I going to sleep? I'm not sleeping on the floor. And so I tilt the nightstand onto the drawers. Like I flip it over. And on the back of like most like big ass, like, it's not a nightstand. I'm sorry. The dresser. On the back of these dressers is usually just like a flat, like wooden side. And I flip it over and I'm like, I'm going to sleep on the back side of this dresser. It elevates me off the floor, and it's kind of like a bed if I like put some covers and like blankets on it. So I tilt it down on the drawers, and I like lay on it, and my knee, like everything below, like maybe a little above my knee and below, was just hanging off of it. And I was like, this is so uncomfortable. Like I can't sleep like this. And so I tilt that thing down. I put like an old comforter down. I got a blanket, and I throw my other comforter on there with like my sheets and stuff. And then I pull this office chair out of my truck, and I pull it up to this like dresser, and I put my head on it. So now like my whole body fits on this like elevated position off of the bed. It was a fucking dresser, And my head's on this like office chair, and like the rest of my body's on this dresser like that's face down. And I couldn't like move at all because then the office chair would like roll away and I would like fall off. And that's how I slept for probably like a week and a half. Like, I'm not even going to lie. I was so down bad. I had no money. I had nothing. And like, this is how I was living. Eventually, like, I asked a guy at work because he kind of asked me what my situation was, because he was like a dick-sucking, cocksucker motherfucker who just like loved to be right about everything and like loved to like put himself above everyone. Let me just get honest for a second. Like, that's who this guy was. And then he's like, well, do you need an air mattress? Being a dickhead. But, like, really, I needed an air mattress. And I had to swallow my pride and be like, yeah, like, give me this air mattress. I will say to this day, I never gave it back to him. I don't even know if he ever asked about it. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he didn't care. But, like, I like to think that, like, I just didn't want to give it back to him. And so I took it from him. Which probably wasn't the case. But anyway, homeless in Austin. It was not homeless. Now I had like a shelter. I was sheltered. I wasn't homeless. I was sheltered. It was during that time I met this girl who like I ended up talking to for like a really long time. It's not talk. Uh-oh. I thought I just got my pinky stuck in that beer bottle. I don't know how deep I want to dive into this, but this girl was like cool. I met her when I was at work. Her name was Allie. Allie, if you're listening to this, like, I'm sorry. Don't mean to oust you like this, but this is just part of my story. I met her at work one time. I'm like working like this morning shift, and this girl walks up. And I remember being like super friendly. She's like, yo, like she like spoke cool. She was like, yo, like, what's up? Like, can I buy like a joint or whatever? And we're like, yeah. Like, it was like me and like this other guy. We're like, yeah, like buy a joint. And she's like, I was like, she's pretty cute. Like this girl's cute. Like, so I asked her, I was like, what do you do? Like, what's your thing? She's like, well, I just moved here and I'm trying to get my lease sorted, but nothing's ready. And I'm like waiting on my roommate or something. Like, it was something like that. And she's like, so like I really have nowhere to go. And I remember I was like, yeah, don't have, you want to hang out here? You can hang out with us if you need to. Um, I remember like bringing her out like a lawn chair. I was like, you can sit in this and hang out with us and smoke that joint with us, you know? No, or yeah, that happened. I think like nighttime rolled around and I was like, look, like I gotta work all night, but like if you need a place to live, like or like sleep or whatever, like I live down the street because I still live in Waterloo at this time. I was like, as long as you don't like steal anything from me, like you can go in there and like sleep. Like it's a pretty nice place. Like you'll be in there by yourself. You don't have to like worry about some like creeping on you. And maybe she like dug that, like which like if that happened to me, like I would dig that, like that's fucking romantic. Like it's hot. Like you build trust. Like you just have trust like that. Like who can trust someone like that nowadays? Like I just felt like I didn't get like any like negative vibes from her, and I'm usually pretty good at reading people. So that's how we met. I remember like we talked a lot, like maybe the next day or something. Maybe she came back and like I don't remember. My memory's shot, but I remember finding out she worked at like Twin Peaks. And I'm like, yo, like I'm basically dating like a Hooters girl. But I remember I like told her like I want to come like see you at work, and she like was working at this place out like 40 minutes away, and I remember like driving out there and like walking in, like sitting down. She came to serve me, and like what a wild experience, like she was working Twin Peaks, getting her honest dollar, and like mad respect, like get your bread, girl. But like I just remember it being like, whoa, like you're not wearing much, are you? But like she was beautiful, so like fine with me, whatever. Dude, we ended up talking, like me and this girl, like we talked for a long time. We actually kind of like, I feel like she enlightened me, which is weird to say, like whatever. Like she was like a philosophy major at a school that was in this, San Marcos, which is where she was working or whatever. I just remember us like vibing. We just had like a vibe, a connection, a vibe. Kind of rare. Unlike, like these other like people I met out there, like we had like a real connection. But anyway, I got completely sidetracked right there. I don't y'all gotta like remind me I'm reminiscing. This is why I gotta keep chat on Thursdays. On Thursdays we drink, gotta keep chat on. We're supposed to be talking about Nashville, so we're gonna like divert to Nashville. This is what I mean though, like this is where I'm coming from. Like a year and a half ago, I had like young love. I was homeless, but like figuring it out. I was meeting like girls all the time, and like my neighbors were these girls who were young and cute and cool and fun, and like I'm this like mysterious single 21-year-old who's like like I don't know, like that's just what I think like my life was. But now it's like, I moved from Austin. I'm like, I'm sick of it. I can't do it anymore. It's too goddamn hot out here. And so I go to the auction academy, and then it's like, I kind of figure out like, okay, like, well, now that I can get an auction license, this isn't like a nationwide thing. Like it only exists in Kentucky, Tennessee, and like maybe 2 other states that are shitty. And I was like, I'm going to just move to Nashville. It's about time I got a career going. I don't want to work at FedEx any longer, like whatever. And so I moved to Nashville, and I was really excited for it because I've been coming up to Nashville my entire life. Like my entire life, I'd come visit my cousin and his family up here and just have a blast every time I came up. And I've never really seen like the whole city. One time, I thought about coming up to school. There's this like music school in downtown. I forget what it's called. It's actually not like an accredited university, but like it's a music school that I thought, I was going to come and like be a rapper for or whatever, like join and be a rapper. And I took my buddy from college. This is after I dropped out, but I took my buddy and we came up here. We came up here with like an 8-ball of blow. And I remember I was like, we're going to go tour this like music university, and we're going to like tour the city and like see everything. And I remember we came up here and we did just a bunch of blow. And like we stayed with my like family, like, the same people I mentioned the last episode, but like we were just fucking idiots is what we were. And I'd never really seen the city. God, I don't even know why I said that. On Thursdays we drink. We're gonna have to edit this one. Probably not. I I commit to the things I say. But I've never really seen Nashville. You know, I think I got like a very forced perspective of like what this city was, but like to me it was always like a big city closer to home than like any other big city. And so I move up here, and you know I didn't really have a game plan, but coming out of this like auction academy, you know, I had a job lined up. My cousin runs this liquidations company, which if you don't know what that is, just kind of like Google it and you realize like what it is or whatever. I'm not gonna explain it. Um, and he's like, work for me. You know, you're gonna start at like ground level. So I get like a warehouse job for my like big cousin. He's the oldest of all of the cousins, and I move up here, and my cousins haven't gone off to school yet, so I'm like living in their house, living with them, and like it was a fun, but like you know I'm working all the time and like trying to figure out like what the fuck's going on. And moving up here, I remember like as much as I wanted it, like I was super just like hesitant and kind of nervous because like moving to Austin, when I moved down there, you know, I was so like under the influence all the time that like I never really even like thought about like the anxieties that come with like moving to another city. And the time I was doing it now, I was like way more sober and like way more like clear headed. And so it comes to me that like, holy fuck, you have to move to this city. You have to like find your work. You're going to start a new job. You're going to start a new life. You're going to start a new like social circle. You're going to start a new this. You're going to start a new that. And like, it was just so much more anxiety involved in this one than like anything else I've ever done, which, you know, I already did it. I did it in a worse situation where I actually literally had no idea, like, of anybody that lived there. You know, I didn't know anyone, but, like, in Nashville, like, I have very close family, like, a lot of very close family up here. I had, like a safety net and this and that, and I'm, like, almost even more nervous to do it, which might have come from, like, the fact that, like, I fucked Austin all the way up, and, like, I realized like how much of a degenerate I was, and like how like it was almost like a good thing that I didn't know anybody out there. And now I was like scared that like that's going to transfer into like my family life now, because now I'm going to live in the city, but like people are going to know me, or like my aunts, you know, my family's going to keep in touch with me or whatever. And I was just like, fuck. I just remember being like, you know, it was nerve wracking. But I come up here and I start the job, and I'm living with my aunt and uncle, and I'm looking for a place to live. And I looked hard, but like, you know, they were always suggesting like roommates or this or that, and like I just didn't know shit about anything up here. And I'm trying to find a place to live, and it's just a difficult process. Like it was just difficult. But anyway, I finally found like a Facebook post, and I've been browsing Facebook for like 3 or 4 months, and that's how long like I lived with them in their house, in their basement. I'm like living at their house, and like these people would come, like my girl cousin who's like 3 years younger than me. She'd have friends over, and they'd be like whose shit is that in the fucking basement like guest bed? And like, oh, that's like our cousin. He's like living with us, you know, like. I felt weird about it. I fucking hated it, because I hate being like a burden to people, and like having people like worry about me, or like I don't know, like I don't want people to like provide for me at all. You know, I'm trying to figure it out by myself, and like I don't know. I felt like it was a huge burden. But finally I found this ad on Facebook, and it's like two selfies of these two dudes, and they're like house for rent in East Nashville, message for like Google Doc or something. I was like, what the fuck? But like the house looks really nice, and so I'm like, okay, like, so I messaged these dudes, and they're like, send me a link to like this Google Doc, and I open this link, and like it's like this entire like form, and it's like, what's your name, where are you from, what do you like to do, what's your age, you're like. And then it like has like this like 20 question multiple choice like test, and it's like, you know, like on a scale of like dirty to clean, like how clean do you like your space, and like it really gets like really deep into it. And I'm like sitting there thinking like like what are the right answers to these questions, and I just put like what I would want to hear. Which, like, I'm not like a dirty person. Like, I will say my room has gotten progressively like dirtier every episode this week. It's just gotten progressively dirtier, and I've gotten progressively drunker. But on Thursdays we drink. So I filled out this Google Doc thing, and they like picked me out of all like 40 people. They picked me out to like come live with them, and that's when I moved into this place, and I was very happy to like have my own place. I was a little nervous about like having roommates because this place in Austin I rented, which was like the only place besides like Waterloo. This was like the only place like rented by myself. It was a 3-story house that was probably built like in the 60s. Very old looking on the outside, very kind of like dirty and old. The entire bottom floor was this entire like 3 or 4 bed bath like unit being rented out. The second floor was a like 6 bedroom, 3 bathroom like unit, but it was way like more fucked up than the bottom floor unit. And I rented the biggest room in this place. I had this huge room all to myself, and it had like windows all on the sides and around the back, and like, dude, it was fucking sick. I'm not even gonna lie, like I missed like having that room, and it had like a bunk bed built into the wall. I remember my buddies came and like to visit me, and we all slept in that room. But this place, so when I rented it, there was this guy who had lived there, and this kid was like openly homosexual and probably like a little autistic. You can't hate the motherfucker, you know. Obviously you can't hate him, but like he was just like really weird. And I remember him like when I was touring the place, like the landlord was like, yes, the guy who lives here is a bit of a like weirdo or whatever, and he's probably gonna say something to you. And so like I'm touring the place for the first time, and this dude's like bed bugs or like fleas. There's a lot of fleas in the building. I'm like, what? And he's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, there's fleas. Anyway, the kid like had been living in this like 6 bedroom, 3 bathroom, like entire like second floor suite by himself, and obviously he didn't want a roommate. But I wanted the room I saw because it was fucking sick as shit and had a ton of windows on it. Eventually, like the landlord had this buddy of his who wanted to move in, who was a doctor, like a travel doctor, like a contract like doctor, like was legally allowed to like prescribe people pills and stuff. So this guy moves in. So now there's 3 people living on this floor. And this dude's probably like 42. He's very cynical because he's worked in healthcare for a long time, and he's a single 42-year-old man. So he just obviously like hates a lot of like people and things. And I remember this guy who's lived here the longest. His name was like Caleb. He had all these like get-togethers. The first get-together he had was before the doctor lived there, and like a bunch of these people just like showed up. And I remember I was like getting ready to like go out or something, and all these people were like smoking like DMT in the living room and like playing like Super Smash Bros in this back room that they had like set up like tournament style. But they were straight up smoking DMT like in the living room, and they were playing like this weird music. And I just remember being like, what the fuck? But like I'm walking out in like a fucking like all black like suit, and these people are like tweaking out, and they're like, whoa, I don't know, dude. Like it was just fucking weird. I remember that. But anyway, so like Thanksgiving time rolls around, and he's having a Friendsgiving, or like a family. No. It wasn't a Friendsgiving. That was the funny thing. He's having his family's Thanksgiving like dinner at our place. And nothing against this guy or his family, but his family was morbidly obese. Morbidly obese. The only way to get up to the second floor of this house was stairs. The back stairs were like very tall, like cement stairs that came all the way up to this like back door. And the indoor like stairs was like this spiral staircase that goes up all 3 floors. Like, and it had its own like room that went straight up, and it was just a staircase room, you know what I mean, like a stairwell.
these people were so obese that there was no way they were walking up the middle of this house on this spiral staircase. There was no fucking way. They would have had to like take the roof off and like drop a crane in there and like lift the mom and the sister out. Like I'm talking, this is like, I've always seen these type of people on TV, but you never expect to run into this type of people in person. And we walk into the house and his sister, I think, was taking up the entire couch by herself. Like, most of her was in the middle, but the rest of her was, like, folding over herself, like, onto the rest of this, like, decently sized couch. It's not funny. Like, it's honestly more sad and, like, more, like, upsetting than it is funny. Because I don't find that type of shit funny at all. Like, there's, like, a severe issue that comes with, like, being that obese. Like, it takes like a long time and a lot of dedication to like get that obese. But my roommate's a doctor and he deals with the general public all the time. And he fucking hates fat people. He fucking hates fat people. I remember we went out for like cocktails one night to this like really nice cocktail bar because he was just like, he knew I was like a broke, dumb kid and he just wanted to like take me out and like flex on my head. And he takes me out one night and he's just talking about like his profession. He's like, I fucking hate like the retard. I don't know if I can say that. That's my bad. I fucking hate like the mentally disabled people and the fat people that come in because they're just so fucking useless. And usually there's nothing wrong with these people. This is him saying this. This is not me saying this. I would never say anything like this. But he's like, there's just nothing, because there was nothing wrong with these people, and they just come in all the time, and they just bitch and moan to me that they need pills, and they need this, but there's nothing wrong with them except they're fat as fuck. I'm like, all right, dude, like, obviously you have some, like, pent-up aggression you need to deal with. So, anyway, he's not home, and my roommate doesn't tell anybody that he's throwing a Thanksgiving at our house. And so I just walk out of my room. I'd been playing like Apex Legends for like 4 hours. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to the bars to get fucked up. And I walk out into my living room and he has a whole like dining table set up. Just set up. And in the living room are 4 people who are taking up probably like 54 square feet. Just 4 people. And then there's like 6 other people. And I'm like, like, yo, like, what's going on? He's like, oh, well, like, meet my mom, meet my dad, meet my sister, and my other, like, brother. And it was a combined, like, 1,800 pounds of, like, hands I was shaking. I'm like, I didn't care. There was no judgment coming from me. I didn't care. I'm like, just like, Caleb, like, hey, like, next time, like, let us know what's going on. And so I leave, and I go to the bars, and I do a bunch of, like, drugs, and I, like, come home. I remember I'm like Uber home and I'm like so like just fucked up. And I walk into my driveway and Caleb is like he's a homosexual. I think I mentioned that. And he like prances out to the driveway and he's fucking sobbing. And he's like, Pat. I'm like, what? I'm like, my mind's, I'm like, why is this guy awake? Like, there's no reason this dude should be awake. It's 4 a.m. Like, is him and his family, like, smoking DMT and going to fucking meet God in the living room? Or, like, what's going on? And he's like, Steve was the doctor. Oh, my God, Pat, it's horrible. And he's crying, and he's, like, crying. He's like, Steve, he's a psychopath. He's a fucker. I'm like, Caleb, chill the fuck out. I don't have time for this. I need to go to bed. I'd had a rough night. There's nothing I need to do except get in the bed right now and pass the fuck out. Like, what happened? So Steve comes home from a long day of working in the hospital dealing with the type of people that he fucking hates. And he walks into the kitchen of his own, like, place of like sanctuary, his own place of living. And in the kitchen and living room, he sees like 4 morbidly obese like individuals. He sees like the whole kitchen is just like cluttered with like Thanksgiving foods and like activities and shit. And there's just like this like
a lot of these people have like mental handicaps or whatever. Like they're just like huge. It's not because they're huge, they're mentally handicapped. I don't know why I'm trying to like correct myself politically, but like, you know what I mean? Like when Steve, this guy who like hates these type of people, come home to his like personal space, you know, he comes home from a long day of like dealing with these certain people that he doesn't like, and he comes home to his space and he sees the whole place is like full of them. Steve has like the crash out of the century, and he freaks out and he tells Caleb like, you know, what the fuck are these people doing in here? And Caleb, as he's like bawling his eyes out, is telling me that Steve comes in and grabs all the food on the counter and just chucks it off the counter. And he calls everyone in there like a fat, unhealthy piece of shit, and that they don't need the food that they're all like sitting there eating, and just shoves it all off the counter and like crashes out and like freaks the fuck out. And I wasn't very familiar with Steve at this time, so in my mind I'm thinking like, this dude might actually have like some like psychopath, like crazy like tendencies. I just didn't know. I didn't know this guy at all, and he was living in the room right next to me. He seemed like a little weird, but not as weird as this Caleb dude. And like Steve comes home and sees all these fat people in the living room and just fucking, he's had enough. So he throws all the food off the counter onto the floor and tells everyone to get the fuck out. And Caleb's like, he's a sick fucker. He lies. He's actually not like a doctor. He just says he is, and he hates fat people. And I'm like, Caleb, it's 4:30 in the morning. I can't deal with this right now. I'll talk to Steve tomorrow, and we'll sort this bullshit out. We'll just deal with it tomorrow. I fucking passed out. Anyway, Steve is friends with the landlord, and he just, like, eventually Caleb, like, packs his shit up. I remember his mom came over, like, first of all, like, his mom came over. I met his mom, like, my second day there, and she was, like, I'll come home one time. Caleb's not even home. And there's just, like, 65-year-old woman in the house. And I'm like, or not in the house, you know, the second floor. And I'm like, hi. And she's like, hello. I'm like, I'm Caleb's mom. And she's just sitting there, like, folding laundry and, like, doing the dishes and, like, cleaning up. And I'm like, this dude is, like, 29 years old. You know what I mean? So, like, Steve probably had reasons to be upset. And he was probably sick of living with this dude. And I think Caleb mentioned something about, like, Steve was telling him that, like, he just needs to, like, get the fuck out of there, and that, like, he's, like, a waste of space, and that he don't want to, like, live with, like, a fat ass like him or something. I don't know. Like, Steve was a bit extreme. I kind of felt, like, certain ways about Caleb, but I wasn't going to, like, say anything like that. Like, that was just fucking extreme. So, anyway, the next morning, like, I remember, like, I, like, meet Steve in the kitchen. And, like, I don't know if Steve knows, if I know or anything. Like, Caleb's not home. And he's just, like, whistling, like, in the kitchen, like, all, like, jolly and shit. And, like, I'm like, dude, like, did something happen last night? He's like, no. I'm like, not. And he's, like, a 40-year-old man, so I'm not trying to, like, get on to him. You know, I'm not trying to be weird at all about it. But I'm like, nothing at all happened last night? At all? Like, anything? Like, did anything happen last night? He's like, not that I can think of. And I didn't even know what to say. I'm like, well, Caleb said, like, maybe you got, like, mad at him or something last night. He's like, oh, like, that was nothing. Obviously it was something. Like, he had, like, a full, like, fat phobic, like, meltdown, and, like, screamed at all these obese people, but, like, nothing happened. And, like, I was like, all right, like, whatever. So anyway, Caleb gets fed up, and he's like I can't live here anymore. Like, I can't live with someone like him. And then, like, before he leaves, I remember, like, his grand, it's not his grandma, it's his mother, who's, like, 67 and, like, doesn't need to be, like, bending down and picking shit up, like, comes and, like, moves him out of the place. This is why you don't find your roommates on Facebook. I got lucky now because they're cool, but you just don't move in with random people. Most people are weird. I'm weird, but, like, you know what I mean? I'd be happy to live with someone like me. He's just like, I remember he's like, while he packs up. And first of all, like, the whole place was furnished with his shit. I think that's where I was kind of going with this. The whole place was furnished with like his things. And so he like packs up, and I remember the whole place, like the entire like 6-bedroom, 3-bathroom, like second floor of this house is just barren. There was no living room. There was nothing in the other rooms that were like waiting to be rented. There was nothing. It was just my room, which was very like, simplistic. It was very, I don't know the word. And Steve's room had like very simple. It was very simple. We didn't have anything really. So he's moving out, and he's like, be careful, this guy. He's a psychopath. And he fucking disappears. I never see him ever again. But they were tripping DMT in the living room on like, Thursday nights and shit. And like, I don't know. It was probably a good thing I didn't live with him too long. Whatever. This other guy moved in eventually. He was this dude from Thailand. Weird motherfucker. And he moves in, and he's like sleeping on an air mattress. And his room, like, I finally saw his room after like a while, because from maybe like 3 weeks, I didn't even see the guy. I just knew he was like living on our floor. But he was working this like sex shop. And I remember I went and picked him up from work one time, and like I walked in, and I was like what is going on? And he's just like dude from Thailand. He moves to America, and he's working in this sex shop because he said it was the only place that would hire him because he was like illegal. And it was a sex shop where you would like buy these tokens, and they had like a movie theater in the back. And what you would do is you would buy these tokens at the counter in the front, which was selling like dildos and like weird like lubes and stuff. And you would take these like coins to the back, and you would like put them into this thing, and it would open the gate to this wall. And you would just like go back there and like fuck dudes. But he mentioned like, hey, I need you to pick me up from work. And he mentioned where he worked one time, and I was free, and I was like, I have to see where this dude works. Like he mentioned like a little bit about it. I was like, I gotta go see what's going on. And I remember walking into this sex shop, and it was like way outside of town, and the only thing next to it was this like strip club that was 18 plus. It was BYO liquor, and it was like free to get in. And he was like, yo, like this place is cool, but like people shoot each other outside of here like every weekend, so I don't work weekends. But I remember walking in this like sex shop, and I'm like looking around and stuff, because he had like hyped it up. He's like, these dudes give me like discounts on all the shit here, and like I get lubes and like free like trial shit to like just have. And I'm like, just weirded out. But I remember these dudes like come out of the back, and they're just like sweating, and I'm like, oh my god. So like there's actually like gay fucking like happening like not 20 yards from where I am. And I just remember like them eyeing me down, like staring at me, like seeing if I was gonna buy a coin or something. They were gonna double back or whatever. That was just crazy. It was crazy I lived with this dude. But I mean, we didn't really hang out. There was one time we hung out, and I like gave him like this like this thing that I had that was like the craziest. Like I'm still trying to figure out what I want to and what I don't want to say on this podcast, if we're calling it that. But like, I gave him like some of like the craziest Molly like I'd ever had, and I knew it was some of the craziest Molly like anyone in the country would ever have. And I gave it to him, and he like absolutely like tweaks out, and we like walked around downtown Austin for like a long time. Sorry, I'm reading a text while I'm recording. That's horrible. I don't even know where I'm going with this. This is why we don't drink heavily and do a podcast. But what I'm saying is, like, I've been living in crazy situations. And so finally in Nashville, I'm moving to this place I'm in right now. And it's like a nice home. And the dudes I'm living with are like 5 to 6 years older than me. They're cool. They're all working like jobs and stuff. And so I moved to Nashville. And Nashville is nothing like Austin. I remember being in Austin, and like people would compare like Nashville to Austin and be like, it's basically the same thing. While Nashville has better weather and is way prettier as like a city, it's not the same. Like everyone here is like white, very Christian kind of like background, and like likes country music and wears cowboy boots. Austin had a bit of that, but it was way more like hip and it was way more diverse. Like there were a lot of really hot like Asian baddies down there, and there's none of that up here. If there are, they're rare and they're cuffed up by some big beefy cowboy wannabe, you know what I mean? And so I've been in Nashville for a while, and like, you know, I went to a hockey game tonight. The hockey games are cool. It's cool that they have an NFL team. It's cool they have a hockey team. It's cool they have a soccer team. I've never gone and seen the soccer team, but like, I don't like it here. But what I like about it is that, you know, finally for the first time in my life, and you know, I'm nearing the age where it's like normal to have, but like I have a career path, you know, I'm working for like a family company, like I'm making money. I'm making enough money to where like I'm not going broke because I'm not like spending money at the restaurants and shit, but like I'm making money, you know, like, and I'm figuring it out, but like I'm not a fan. Like if I'm gonna be honest, I'm just not a fan of it. And I have way less friends, you know, and maybe that's because like in Austin I was living literally like next to a college campus, like within a mile of a college campus, and my Bumble and Tinder was popping, and like I had, you know, like it was easier, it was way more fun, and that like I'm gonna share a secret with you folks. Like I've been celibate ever since I moved here. It's been like 9 months, y'all. Like that's like personal record type shit right there. And I don't know, man. It's just I got into fishing. Like that's what's cool about here is like there's a ton of like lakes, rivers, and streams, and like a 30-minute drive like radius like everywhere around me, and there's mountains and shit. And then, you know, my cousin has the farm and stuff, and like I got into fishing, and I went fishing the other day, and I'm like, I enjoy this, you know, like I can go like stand in a body of water like chest deep and like throw a pole and like throw a line out and catch a fish, and like I enjoy that because, you know, it's getting out in the woods and stuff. And like if you don't do that, I would say like some people don't have access to it, but if you don't like go out and like get in the nature, like hike, like not hike your like a park trail or something, but like get out in like the woods and like hike, it's like it's good for you. It's definitely good for you. It's got to be good for you. It's very like hereditary, you know. It's solid. But other than that, like Nashville sucks. And like I went out to the bars and stuff. Like I'm trying to think of anything like fun or exciting that's like happened while I've lived here, but all the bars are like honky tonks or like dive bars and stuff. I'm sure there's bougie spots. I've been trying to take, you know, girls I match with on Bumble out to these like bougie spots, and like I'm like, yo, like I that's another thing. Like I don't know. Maybe I just lost touch with like how to do it, but like I don't know how to like date. I don't know how to like ask a girl to like go, because I don't want to go like eat at like fucking like Raising Cane's and then like go and like do some like lame shit. Like I want to dress up. I want to pick a girl up, and I want to go to like the nicest cocktail bar in town. Like I want to see what you look like with a full face of makeup and like your best, you know, like dress or whatever. And maybe that's just me, and a lot of people aren't for that, but it's just been this weird like journey of like maturing. Ever since I moved here, like I felt like I was turning a new leaf. I'm maturing, like things are changing, you know, and that's just how I felt. It's obviously not the case. Like I have like so much room to grow, but like I don't go out to the bars, and I know that's like how that's what everyone my age is like doing, and it's how they meet people or whatever, but like I just feel like I'm over it. And let's dive into that a little bit. Bar culture. I don't when I like to like drink a lot, which when I got here, like I would drink a lot, but like when I really like to like drink a lot, you know, I could understand going out to a place that has like a scene, you know. It's shoulder to shoulder packed. It takes 15 minutes to order a $9 beer, and you can't hear what the person right in front of your face is saying to you. You have to be like, what? Huh? You know, because some they're playing the same playlist that they play at every other bar at max volume. And for a long time in my life, I was like, that's fun. And I think a lot of people feel that way. And I'm not hating on you. I'm not shitting on it. I'm just saying how I feel about it. You know, like, I got sick of it. I stopped, like, maybe it's because my whole goal wasn't to just get, like, blackout drunk and, like, make a fucking fool of myself. Because I did that plenty of times. When I get wasted, I turn into, like, a different beast. There's, like, you know, and people will say, like, when you're, like, really, really drunk, it's, like, who you really are, like, creeping through the seams. I don't want to think that that's true. Because I turn into this, like, psycho, like, this, like, ego-y, like, which everyone, like, their ego kind of, like, gets boosted up by alcohol, and, like, everyone says shit and, like, gets aggressive, like, you know, guys will get aggressive or whatever, but, like, I want to fight, like, anybody, and, like, I turn into, like, this, like, shit-talking, like, little punk, and I hate that, and I stopped, like, digging it. I stopped thinking that, like, it was cool, and so I don't understand the bars. Like, if I had, like, a solid, like, circle of friends that, like, I really fucked with, like, yeah, we'll go out. You know, I wouldn't mind going out to somewhere, like, where we can sit in like, a table and, like, talk. But, like, going and, like, standing around a bar while, like, they not like us is, like, blaring at full volume, like, I don't fuck with that at all. I actually hate that song. And so it's just, like, I stopped, like, getting it. And that's limited, like, my ability to, like, go out and meet friends. And I've met friends of, like, mutual people, you know, but, like, I've yet to, like, find, like, a group of friends. And, like, I mentioned, like, the anxiety that comes with, like, being, like, conscious when you actually move to a new big city and it's not some, like, irrational decision. And it's definitely, like, added to that, like, wow, like, fuck, like, it's, like, tough, like, it's hard. And I didn't realize that the first go round, you know what I mean? And it's just crazy that, like, the second go round's, like, it's so much harder because, like, I'm doing this all more sober than I was doing it the first time, and it's just, like, it's not the same. And so Nashville's been a trip, and I'm, like, 8 or 9 months in, and, like, I've met people I like, and I've hung out with people I like, and it has been okay, and I'm working a lot, and that's something new to me, and my, you know, I'm working, and I work late, and I work weekends and stuff, and, like, I have, like, money that isn't being spent immediately, you know? It's just, like, money I can kind of hang on to. And I bought a boat. I fucking bought a boat, like, last weekend because I went fishing one time, you know? I was telling y'all, like, I went fishing, I, like, stood in a river, and I was like, summertime's about to roll around, like, I need to be on the water having a good time. So I went and bought, like, a $600 boat off of Facebook because, you know, I don't know. It used to be, like, I would spend, like, $250 a week on, like, joints and vapes just to go by, like, the smoke shop and kind of talk to people to, like, have that, like, social interaction because, I don't know, y'all, like, we've been down bad. We've been down bad a lot, but I never let it, like, keep me, you know what I mean? Like, we just cruise past it, and, like, I've only ever learned that, like, staying, because I've gone through ups and I've gone through downs, and I've let both of them consume me equally, you know. I've let the downs consume me. I've been caught in these, like, this, like, my own trap that I, like, lay out for myself of, like, letting this sadness and this, like, anger, like, consume me and create my action, you know. And I've also let it happen in the opposite way of, like, being so caught up in, like, the high of, like, being happy and being, like, complacent that, like, everything else falls apart and there's no, like, reality check. And I've been working towards, like, finding that middle ground and that balance of it all, and it's actually, like, it's the hardest thing in the world to do. um, most people would tell you no. You just gotta go to the gym. I mean, you fucking hear that all the time. These motherfuckers on the internet just swear to you that, like, the gym is everything you need and that it's, like, the best thing for you. And I'm not gonna sit here and tell you it is, because the gym's, like, a toxic environment. And, like, public gyms are fucking... I hate going to a public gym. Because you go in there and it's just, like, everybody is just, like, looking at everybody else and, like, no one's comfortable at all. And everyone... And, like, there's one dude who's comfortable and he's just going in there and, like, ego lifting to, like, let everyone know that, like, he's comfortable. But, like, I've been trying to, like, you know, create, like, a regiment for myself. I, like, wake up, you know, and, like, have a routine. And that is bringing me closer to this balance that I'm mentioning is, like, of between, like, riding the high and getting swallowed by the lows. And just finding this, like, medium where I can just kind of like riff and just kind of like float and be not happy, because I think being happy and being complacent and especially being comfortable is like the worst thing ever. But if you're, you know, and also being unhappy and being, it's weird. So if you're comfortable and you're happy and you're complacent, like, you're never going to strive for, like, change or growth. And I think, especially for me at my age, change and growth and being uncomfortable is, like, the most important thing for me. It teaches me, you know, you have to have that. It braces you for, like, all types of shit in the future. It allows you to learn and grow and, like, get more comfortable with things that, like, you were never comfortable with. Whereas, like, being unhappy and being uncomfortable, like, I wouldn't say in moderation is good for you, because you shouldn't live and think that, like, being unhappy is good for you, because obviously it's not. You need to have some sort of happiness in your life at all times, whether it's, you know, for me, it's been gaming. You know, a lot of my life, I've spent a lot of my life, like, gaming. And, like, I found, like, I am happy, like, when I'm, like, playing, like, a competitive, like, first-person shooter or whatever. But, like, you know, and I used that as an outlet for happiness for a long time. But, like, it never lasts. And you probably need to find, like, a more stable, like, thing than, like, some toxic online game where people are just, like, unhappy playing it. But that's easy. You know what I mean? You shouldn't be unhappy, but you shouldn't convince yourself that, like, your comfortability and your complacency is your happiness, because then you're not growing, or you're not, like, changing, or you're not trying to make yourself more happy. It's the weird middle ground. And that's, I think, what every 20-something-year-old in the world is trying to figure out. And it's what it's changed, you know what I mean? So, like, our parents figured it out. They figured out the middle ground, and a lot of our parents probably got stuck in, like, the comfortability, and, like, you know, they accepted it. But then there's those that didn't, and they're living, like, a different lifestyle than those that did. But for us, when I say us, I mean, like, people who are growing up in this, like, tech world, it's changed, and your perception of, like, happiness and comfortability has changed. I know at least mine has. I think, you know, happiness is a $10 million year and a big house and, like, a hot girlfriend who might or might not have been, like, an OnlyFans model in her day or whatever, and, like, a Rolex and a fucking Ferrari or two. You know what I mean? Like, it's gotten superficial. We've kind of been just, like, I've been brainwashed by this idea, and I know others have. I know some people out there, I know a lot of people out there share this idea of, like, this is what happiness is. But the people that achieve that, whatever, you can call it happiness, you can call it success, you can call it whatever you want, but the people that achieve that are the people who are never comfortable, the people who are never complacent. And the unfortunate kind of paradox of it all is that, like, those people who have these things, and they're not, like, just the fake, like, flexers online or whatever, those people are unhappy and uncomplacent to this day. You know, they might be more comfortable, but they're still unhappy and uncomplacent, and it's like this like never-ending grind for more. And then it's a mindset I'm trying to adopt. I don't even know if it's like because I'm authentically trying to like adopt this idea. I knew I always wanted to be successful. I think I always thought I was capable of success, but like realizing what it takes to achieve that and the sacrifice that you have to be okay with is like, it's a daunting kind of like realization. You kind of realize that like it's everything. You know, it has to be all or nothing. NFL players and NBA players will tell you that. I mean, you look at like Olympians, like gold medal Olympists, it was everything. They sacrificed, and most, you know, a lot of parents, it was their parents who forced them to, but the discipline was sacrifice everything for this thing you want, whether you authentically want it or whether it's something idea that's been pushed on you and you want it. Regardless of what it is, you have to sacrifice everything to get it. And that to me is kind of like, it hasn't like pushed me away from like still wanting it, because I think it's really easy to want it, but to actually like back up this like desire and like actually do it is like, it's so hard. It's the hardest thing ever. And you know, you listen to anybody who did it or has done it or whatever, you hear them talk about it, and it's like the hardest thing in the world. You know, it's not supposed to be easy. Some people get lucky, some people get born into like certain situations that are like different, and it is easier, but it's never easy at all. And so here in Nashville, I guess to like bring it full circle, it's different than Austin, because in Austin I was trying to find comfortability, be complacent, and like have fun. Like that was my focus. But as I've moved here and like I've realized there might be a route, you know, it's not going to be an easy or a fun route, but there might be a pathway I have that I can take the opportunity, and I might make something of myself. I might get some of the things I've always wanted. Now, whether those things look like I've always thought they would look like, it never is that case. It's just never going to be exactly how you thought it would play out. It's not going to be the same stress level you thought it would be. It's not going to be the same in any type of way. It's going to be this thing that blindsides you, this like pathway that introduces itself into your life, and it's up to you to whether you follow that path or kind of wait for the next path. I don't know if that makes any sense at fucking all, but I'm trying to explain like this is how I've perceived my current situation, you know. I never thought I would be living in Nashville. I never thought I would have like an auction license. I never thought I'd be working in like online auctions or like this. And it's not like that doesn't, it might sound like, wow, like you actually have a lot going for you, but like I don't. I really don't. Like I'm not making like, I wouldn't even say I'm making like good money. Like I'm probably making like low income is what, you know, I'm scraping by. But what I see ahead of me, you know, is an opportunity to do more and be more. And it's hanging on to the hope of that like opportunity, you know, and having faith that like if I commit myself, you know, and I actually like push myself to like do the things that I don't want to do, because God knows I don't want to do them, and push myself to get uncomfortable and, you know, live in this city that I don't really like, and it's not what I'm comfortable with, and I'm not having like everything I really wanted to have out of like a new city. But you know, if I commit to this and commit to like being okay with like not having everything I've wanted to have, that sacrifice itself, it alone might propel me to a better opportunity of success and well-being. it's weird. And a lot of the people I know and have known, you know, everyone wants it. Everybody wants it. And we're used to it being easy. We're used to it just like being easy. Click of the button, like Uber Eats to your door, easy. You know what I mean? And it's not. And I hate that it's not. I fucking hate it. And it's figuring out, it's me figuring out, you know, how easy did you want it to be, and how easy and how hard are you okay with it to become, you know what I mean? Like, how much shit are you willing to do for it? I think like the phrase like sell your soul, you know, when actors or musicians say it, and that's a different industry entirely, and it's probably like an entirely different topic, but like I don't think it means like they're actually like selling their soul to like Satan, but it means that like they've sold every ounce of like personal identity they've ever had and everything that they thought they were, and they sold it all. They sold like who they were as a person to get the success and everything that came with like not selling, but like trading who you are to become whatever. And I don't know. And that's not like a question you can ask successful people. I mean, you can ask them like something a little easier to ask than that, you know, like, what did you sacrifice? But like, even then, it's like a very hard question. I remember asking my uncle once, because my uncle, you know, I'm in a lucky position where like my uncle is one of like the wealthiest and like most successful people I know on like that type of like level. And I remember asking him one time at our house when we're on the way to like this Christmas party, and it was out of nowhere. It probably caught him off guard, but I was like, you know, what pushes you? Like, what pushed you to start the things that you were doing? Because like I knew he had always like worked hard or whatever, and he always had like a good work ethic and like whatever, but like I was like, what pushed you to like want more? You know, like what pushed you? Like what was your, you know? And he told me, you know, he had a family, got married and had a family. And he said that having he said you know, he didn't know what he was doing at all. But then you know, one day he has this responsibility for a woman that he loves and a child, and he had this responsibility of like making the world for them. And it just, you know, it happened to him, you know, probably planned for it, but like, you know, one day you like realize like you wake up and you have the responsibility for like other people's lives and to make their life like the best thing ever. And that became his responsibility. The responsibility was no longer his like fun or his like caring or his anything. The responsibility was like someone else's, like it's all on him, you know. I couldn't imagine having that responsibility right now. I would fold in half. There's no way like I would be able to like handle that level of like stress, because that's got to be the most stressful thing in the fucking world. Having like a wife and a kid and knowing that you want to make the world the best thing ever for them, and knowing that like you might have people like kind of help you out in the way, but like it ultimately comes down to like you and what you're willing to do and sacrifice for that. And that's what he told me. He's, you know, he said that's what pushed him. What are you willing to sacrifice? And I think about that a lot. And I had another uncle who, it's a different situation, but he's successful as well. And that was his big thing. It was like, what are you willing to sacrifice to get what you want? Because I sacrificed everything. And I think about that actually like a lot. I really do. And I've lived so comfortably my whole life. And I hate admitting it because most people live, not most people, but like a lot of people live uncomfortably, you know? And I've lived so comfortably and I've gotten so used to like comfortability, and I think to myself like, I talk a lot of shit about like wanting it and being this and wanting this and doing it. But like, am I willing to sell my soul? Am I willing to like sacrifice and change everything that I thought I was and thought I wanted for this pathway, you know, that was presented to me? Because it doesn't happen the way you think it's going to happen. And you're not going to sacrifice the things that you think you're willing to sacrifice. It's always going to be a blind side. And you can call it God, you can call it like divine, like what you can call it whatever you want to call it, but life presents you with an opportunity, and you to take that opportunity is to turn your back on every other thing you know. And I know I want it young. I've always said I want it young. I want to do it young, and just I sit and I think, and I'm like, am I willing to sacrifice my youth? Am I willing to sacrifice like the fun and like your 20s and like your prime or whatever to like make a better world for myself and whoever I have with me in the future? And like, it's a question I debate with myself a lot. And I don't really know. I don't really know the answer. I'm not going to tell you I do, because I don't. I go back and forth on it all the time. Some days I feel like, you know, I can keep my head down. I can channel these ideas that I have and like really put my effort into a single idea and like grow it into something that either fails me or like works for me, you know. And some days I just want to like sit in my room and play Rainbow Six Siege, you know what I mean? Some days like I'm not ready for that responsibility and that stress that I truly believe is necessary to put yourself above the rest. Because it's not just a thing that you can say that you're going to do, or a thing, you know, you can tell others that you are. It's like this thing that you actually have to do. And actually doing it is the hardest thing about it. So to full circle this fucking thing, my time in Nashville, ever since the first day I got here, has been battling myself, these two parts of myself. The little bitch inside of me that wants to like sit and play fucking video games and fucking not do anything, and the other half of me that wants to like conquer the world. And so no, I stopped going out to the bars, but like, you know, that's not the sacrifice. You know, I thought that would be it. So you stop going out, you stop spending money or whatever, but that's not the sacrifice I have to make. The sacrifice is going to be something I didn't think I had to do. And although I stopped going out to the bars, you know, I mean, like, there's a lot more that I have to put up, you know, on the table, that a lot more I have to gamble with and fucking say, like, I'm okay without it, and fucking just play the hand or whatever. And for y'all out there, you know, like, this is just me trying to be like, I don't know. I told you I went to a hockey game. I drank a lot of beer, so I don't even know if this makes sense, but don't be afraid of it. I mean, you have to like responsibly recognize like what it is. And if you've always wanted more for yourself or whatever, you got to responsibly recognize like this mountain that you have to climb. Like you have to like recognize that the mountain is there. That's the first thing. You have to realize that like you can do it. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. You have to recognize that like you can actually do it. And that the mountain, this metaphorical mountain is there for everybody. It's sitting right in front of them, but most people are so comfortable at the base of this mountain, at the very bottom of it, by the river or whatever of like comfort, that they don't even realize that the mountain is there. And that at the very top of it is a view that they didn't even know existed, right? This is the analogy I'm going to go with. So the first step is recognizing that the mountain is there. That's the first step, and it's actually really hard to do. It doesn't sound as easy as I'm putting it, because when you live your whole life in like the forest under the mountain, you can't see above the trees because you got the river below you and everything's like right below you. And you don't have to look up and past like where you are. So recognizing the mountain is there is like it's a hard step, and it's a step that takes a long time. The second hard part is recognizing that like the mountain is there and that you have to climb it. And that if you want to see what it looks like at the top of this mountain, that you have to climb it. You have to ditch your village or your tribe or whatever the fuck you got going on at the bottom of this mountain in this forest, and you gotta walk past the tree line and look at this mountain. You have to see it, and then you have to climb it from the bottom all the way to the top. On the pure, and it's just on the pure hope that once you reach the top of this fucking mountain, that the view is so much better. And that's the challenge. And it's not fucking easy. The people who think that they're just going to like walk up this mountain and see the better view die on the way up. And you might have to die on the way up if you really want to see the view. Like it's the hardest thing to do is climb this mountain. I'm loving this analogy. I'm fucking loving it. So recognize your mountain. Recognize your village at the bottom. Recognize your tree line. Recognize what's blocking your view of the mountain. Recognize, what's holding you back from like taking the first step towards climbing this beast. And imagine the view at the top and what that looks like, because it's different for everybody. That's all I got for you folks tonight. It really is. I'm an hour and a half in. I've said it like the past 3 nights. I have to go to the gym tonight. I'm not going. I'm gonna be honest with you all this time. I'm just not gonna go. I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna go the fuck to bed, and I'm gonna go to work early and come home late. We are gonna get a fun fact powered by ChatGPT to end us off. I hope y'all like that analogy. I kind of like hit it on a whim. Whatever, just made it up as I went, but I think it kind of made sense. And I know my episode tonight was like incoherent, but I'm like 9.5 beers deep, so I'm gonna say give me the most random and the most fun fact, because we kind of just got pretty serious and we need to lighten things up. And it gives me the same fucking fact from last night. All right. Wombat poop is cube-shaped. This helps it stay in place and not roll away, which is useful because wombats use their poop to mark their territory. Scientists believe the shape comes from varying elasticity in their intestines. Basically, their guts mold the poop into cubes. I'm going to try to like give a little message with this. Let me read it one more time. Wombat poop is cube shaped. It helps it stay in place and not roll away, which is useful because they mark their territory with this cube poop. Scientists believe that this comes from varying elasticity in their intestines because their guts mold the poop into cubes. We all have our own shit. In this case, you know, the wombat's poop. We all have our own shit. And all of us have different elasticity in our intestines. Our shit might be different sizes and different whatever. Still the same shit. But to mark our territory and establish who we are to the other wombats in this sense, we have to craft the cube. We have to create something that's not going to roll away. We have to use the thing that we all have. We all have this shit. Our personal shit, our trauma, our past, whatever it is. We have to use this, and we have to craft this person that we are because of our situation and our past. We have to use that to craft our shit into cubes. And we have to mark our territory in this world. And it's not the most pleasant looking thing ever. You're turning shit into cubes so it doesn't roll away. But you have to use this to mark your territory in this world from the other wombats. That didn't come out exactly as I wanted it to come out. It didn't come out cube shaped, you know, to like mark my territory or whatever. But, you know, I thought it was a decent analogy. I had 2.5 seconds to come up with it. So, we're going to end it there. I would like you to think about your shit and what shape your shit is now and what you could do to turn your shit into a cube. And think about that while y'all get some sleep tonight. You got a big day tomorrow. I'll probably catch y'all tomorrow night. I think I'm going to do it. So think about your cube-shaped shit while you sleep tonight. Y'all have a good night. Thanks for stopping by.